What's going on, YouTube world? Welcome back to the channel. It's Dusty, the Shred Academy. Let's get after it. We want to make content that you guys want to see. So if you ever have a video idea, please let me know. Chances are, I'll do it. Learning to jump can be a scary thing, but coming off your pedals when learning to jump is even scarier. So today we're going to cover why you're jumping off your pedals and then how to make sure they stay on your pedals. Now, there are two main reasons that your feet could be coming off the pedals while you're jumping. First, you're sitting down on the lip and you're getting bucked off of your pedals as you're leaving. I really care about you guys. I really do. That's some scary stuff. The second one, and the more common, is as you're going through your form, you're really jumping away from the bike and not taking it with you. Pause. Now, you all know that I like to show you me doing it wrong so we can explain why it's going wrong. And we also know that I don't support stand up to the jump. Now, as I try here to do stand up to the jump and leave the bike behind and have my feet come off the pedals, well, I realize this is not safe for me. So, going forward, I really don't have any awful clips, but I am gonna use some parking lot clips to show you guys about not taking the bike with you. So let's roll this clip and you guys can see why But before we get to reason number 2, let's talk about reason number 1 for losing your pedals. And that's gonna be sitting down off the lip and getting bucked forward off of your pedals, because you're literally not doing anything but sitting in the rear seat. And then when your front wheel starts to get pulled down and your rear shock is rebounding, it's sending your body up and forward. And you're not taking the front up with you, so you can't lift the bike into you. Watch. Front wheel down, hips going up, the bike literally just going down, feet off the pedals. And near-death experience. It's as simple as this, guys. You can't freeze on the lip. If you start going through the motions, you have to finish the motions. You can't just get caught here, scared, and go, oh no, I don't want to go in the air. That front wheel will get pulled down, the rear suspension will rebound, and it will buck you over. Now, not only are you going to lose your pedals at a higher speed, you can see this is a number 1 reason for going OTB. So not only are you going to be off the pedals, you're going to be off the bike completely. What's the moral of the story? Don't get caught being scared and stay in the back seat of that bike. You're going to end up in the front seat or over the bars. And of course, off the pedals. Remember, guys, quitting halfway and freezing never resulted in anything good. Finish what you started. Now that we've got reason number 1 dialed, we're gonna move on to reason number 2, and that's simply leaving the bike behind. Now, this happens a lot when people are trying to boost jumps, but it can happen when you're just learning. Now, even though I don't support stand up to the jump whatsoever, because I love you guys, I'm gonna show you how leaving the bike behind with stand up to the jump can also be very bad. And then we'll talk about using the J-hop off of the lip and how you could be losing the pedals because you're simply not taking the bike with you. So what do I mean by taking the bike with you? It doesn't matter if you're using the awful stand up to the jump or the J-hop. Taking the bike with you happens at the point where you decide to unweight the bike completely and start your upwards motion. A lot of times when you see people trying to boost a jump, this is where they'll lose their pedals because they're too concerned about throwing their body upwards than they are of actually creating motion with the bike off the lip. It's not all about just throwing your body in the air, and this is where you can just throw your body away from the bike and lose the pedals. Now you've got this really big bike, whether it's an e-bike or an Amish bike, you've got to pick the bike off the ground and bring it with you in the air so you're not just jumping away from it. Now with the 2-wheeled lift, it's really hard to do this because you're leaving the ground all at one time. And we all know that even if you're clipped in, just picking up your legs is gonna end poorly eventually. So how do you pick this whole bike up just with your arms? It's really difficult, and you can watch as I extend here and begin to pull the bike up. I start to pull my body weight down towards the bike because I'm not braced against anything. So that's why you see my body coming down to the bars as the bike kind of coming up, but not really. And then in the mid-air, I've got this really awful form, and you really don't see me do a whole lot of rolling the bike through, kind of, but bam, that is an awful landing. So even if you're gonna use really poor form, like the two-wheeled lift stand up to the jump, you have to be committed to take the bike with you once you're unweighted from the bike, or you're literally gonna jump away from the bike itself. As you see I do here, feet off the pedals. You can see the point right here where I should be lifting with my arms, but I don't really commit to it and then try to start to later on, but just pull myself forward and up and off the pedals even further. And well, this is just a terrifying thing to happen. I would hate to see it happen to someone on a jump. Now, this was absolutely terrifying, but again, I always want to show you guys what's going wrong and why. So here, I come into this small jump here. I somewhat accept the lip, and you can kind of see me getting ready to stand up to the jump here. And as I do this, stand up, right here is where I should be picking the bike up with me. You can see my toes kind of pointed, my arms fully extended. Now let's watch. Rear tire leaves the ground right there. So again, we are adding a full bike length to the gap of the jump or the tabletop of the jump when we use this two-wheeled lift. But if we don't complete it and actually pick the bike up into us, we're gonna jump away from the bike. And even if I pull myself kind of to the bike, that's just gonna pull my upper body down. I'm not picking the bike up into me anymore. That ended all right here at this big halt right there. Whap! It was all over there. Now, even if I had pedals clipped in, me picking this rear end of the bike up is gonna cause me to go forward even more and possibly go OTB, clipped in, which sucks even more. So while taking the bike with you is completely possible with the two-wheel lift, it is quite difficult because you're trying to pick the bike all up at once, just with the handlebars. And again, if you're clipped in and you just do one of these, you've felt that, whoa! So it's just not a good idea, guys. This is what can happen, and you can somewhat sound like this. If you're new to the channel, here at the Shred Academy, we firmly believe that the J-hop is the basis of a good jumping form. Mountain bike jumps basically consist of two arcs. The arc going off the lip, and then the arc that you create from the lip in the air. So everything you do on and off the lip of the jump is going to affect your arc, which then will affect your landing. And the J-hop creates this arc. And the same thing off of the lip of a jump. Okay, sure, the two-wheeled lift creates a small, very small arc. But what I want you to notice is let's take a look at where the front wheel leaves the ground, right here. The back wheel leaves the ground right here. And if we roll forward, the back tire still doesn't actually reach where the front tire left. And this is huge for mountain bike jumps because that is exactly how a mountain bike leaves the lip of a jump. The front tire reaches the edge of the lip first, and then the back tire still needs to go the rest of the way up to the edge or end of the lip of the jump, and then it can leave right where the front tire left. Right here, back tire, right there. That's how a bike leaves the lip of a jump, so our form needs to aid this. But even when we're trying to use good form, sometimes we can lose the pedals because we're not executing certain things. And this can happen to all levels trying to progress their jumping, especially if they're trying to boost jumps and throw their body weight high off the end of the lip. Just like in the two-wheeled lift, if you leave the bike behind at the time when you're unweighting and exploding upwards and you're not taking the bike with you, you're going to separate from the bike. But unlike the two-wheeled lift version, which relies mainly on a harsh, impactful body weight preload, and then standing up all at once and trying to bring the bike off the ground all at once, which mainly relies just on your shoulders to pick up the bike. But with the J-hop, we not only can rely on our shoulder strength and our arm strength to help lift the bike off the ground upon the final point of explosion, but we can use the tension points that we're about to create between our handlebars and our pedals through the next motions to make sure that we keep our feet planted on the pedals. First, let's see how not leaving the bike behind applies to a flatland J-hop. Right here is the point where I've basically become weightless out of my explosion. Because I didn't just unweight from the bike here after my preload, I actually lift the front wheel, and through my explosion, while I've still got weight in the bike, I grow taller over the bike. So at the exact moment as I become weightless and I have flung my hips up and over the top tube using my arms and my legs to grow tall, it's at this point where I actually am jumping with the bike, and I can get much higher off the ground because I'm starting my actual jump that high off the ground, not all the way down here like the two-wheeled lift. On to the meat of this, guys. As I'm throwing my body up and forward and I reach this point where you can tell I'm weightless, I could just let my shoulders keep going up, my arms will elongate, and basically my motions would stop. But right now, as I'm going up, I'm actually lifting the bike with me. And what's that doing? That's gonna actually lift the bike into my feet. The pedals will actually be hitting my feet. They're actually lifting into my feet. Now, because of this lifting motion, I can also have this backward scooping motion with my feet and the pedals. So I'm not only relying on this shoulder pull up and forearm roll forward to get my bike off the ground and situated angling back towards the ground, but I can also rely on my feet and the pressure I've applied against the pedals with pulling the bike up and scooping to help bring the weight of the rear end of the bike up and create an arc. But in all seriousness, a lot of the lifting does come from your shoulder muscles and your forearm muscles. I want you guys to pay attention to the motions of my arms here. Picking up with the shoulders, and now I'm rolling forward also with the forearms. So it really is almost this pick up and forward row motion. Now during this row motion, I want you guys to think about rolling the grips forward on the handlebars. This is happening right here. I'm trying to roll the grips forward on the handlebars, and that's helping bring the rear end of the bike up as I raise the bike up and through my legs. It literally helps level out the bike. So you're just not pushing the bike through. The difference between rolling the handlebars forward with your forearms and just pushing the bike forward looks like this. Again, try to make sure that pedal's in front of you so it's not hitting your shins. Lift the bike up, and this is like, that's just pushing the bike away from bike up, rolling. Okay? You're gonna feel this a lot in your forearm muscle. One more time. Up and just pushing versus up and rolling. Now, if you're a little shorter and you find this difficult, you can find something to stand on. You can find a little more leverage on top to pick the bike up and roll it through. Now let's finish this whole thing up by talking about taking the bike with you using the J-hop off the lip of a jump, not just off flat ground. The same things are going to apply. But I'm gonna preface this by saying because we have an actual ramp or lip of a jump and we have this speed, my J-hop form doesn't need to be exaggerated. I just need to make sure I'm going through the motions. So let's check them off. Body weight preload, body weight preload. Front wheel lift, front wheel lift. Exploding, exploding. Up and over the top tube, but it's slower because I have this upwards distance to travel before I start to travel back down again. Picking the bike up in its upward path of the arc. Now over here, I'm really not doing a whole lot of picking up because the speed and the lip have created my upwards path off of the lip. But you do see me start to grow upwards with the bike as it travels up. Now we roll the bike forward with our forearms and point the bike down towards our landing. Same thing. Look at that body position versus that body position. Boom, 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 boom. It's the same thing. And let's see how well I control the bike upon landing. Boom. Well, we're really not going to see it here. Let's just back up for just a moment and really take a look at how taking the bike with you happens on the lip of a jump. Now, right here, as I explode upwards, notice how my feet go from heels down to almost the toes dropping. And that articulation of the pedal and my ankle scooping is what's helping bring the rear end of the bike up with me so I'm not leaving the bike behind. Oh, and there they are, toes pointed, and this is where I'm scooping the bike up with my feet. And it's aided by the rolling forward. It's two things that are keeping me connected to the bike. Since it's a little harder to see with the smaller jumps, here's a bigger jump that I'm boosting. Let's back this up and take a look. Creating front wheel lift and then exploding my hips up and over. Now, this is where if I don't continue to bring the bike up with me, I'm going to start to jump away from the bike and might lose my feet off of the pedals. Front wheel lift. This is when I'm going to explode slightly forward. And remember, I don't want to go forward hard because I have all this way to travel before I start my downwards approach to the landing. Explosion, hips moving up and over, picking the bike up, and now rolling it forward to match the angle of the landing. Again, look right here. Picking the bike up and rolling it through. All right, guys, let's have a quick summary. If you're tired of jumping off your pedals, whether you're using the J-hop or the two-wheeled lift, remember that at the point when you decide to leave the ground and jump up, you need to bring the bike with you and not leave it behind and jump off of the pedals. Taking the bike with you, picking it up, and rolling it forward with your forearms. A little visual for a jump. Exploding off the rear wheel. Picking the bike up and rolling it through. Slightly bigger example. exploding off the rear wheel, taking the bike with me, and then rolling the bike through to match the angle of the landing. If you're not taking the bike with you, you're leaving it behind and jumping off the pedals. Well, everybody, that's gonna do it for today. I hope that you enjoyed the tips, and I hope you can keep your feet on the pedals from now on. If you enjoyed this content, let me know. Leave me a comment. If you want to support the Shred Academy and make sure that we survive, please go become a Patreon. Our Patreons truly make this channel possible. Without them, we wouldn't be here. If this video spoke to you and you'd like to leave me a little gas money tip, please use my PayPal and my Venmo links down in the video description. We also have some t-shirts left, so go get those. We really want to get our summer collection out, so we need all these other t-shirts to be gone. Now, if I don't see you till the next video, make sure to ride hard, ride safe, be kind to everyone on and off the trail. And if you do see me out here on the trails, make sure to say hello. I'd love to talk to you, find out why you love biking just as much as me. But until that time, guys, rubber side down.